Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome to STN Stock Talk with Goose and Ricky. Ready for a great day today, guys? Glad you guys are joining us today. Hopefully, you guys are liking this new method of putting it within the site. Please tell your friends about us. I just want to remind you guys that nothing that we're talking about today is any type of solicitation. It's just Ricky and I doing our homework and trying to share with you guys our thoughts on some of the movers and names that we're looking at. We got a lot on our agenda today, so I want to make sure you guys read the disclaimer. You guys do your own homework as always, and the disclaimer will be in the description area. Please join us every day. Please tell everybody about us. We have the free trading floor over there that you guys could always tell your friends about to come join. We've got some really good active traders over there. Thank you guys for all your hard work over there and you guys posting your stuff. We love it. And with that all being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Ricky. I'm glad to be back. Appreciate you guys putting up with my schedule. Be like this for another week or two, but thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it over to Ricky. I know he's got some great stuff going on. So, Ricky, what you got cooking, man?
Thanks a lot, Goose. Yeah, it's great to have you on the show with me again. And hopefully we're going to deliver and not disappoint. First thing I'm looking at today, guys, is TLGT. And just want to point a few things out about it. The OS is pretty big. It's 53.5 million shares, but the float's only 16 million. So it can move. The chart isn't something that's what I would consider a turd or one of those that's in a continual downward death spin. Oops, I forgot to put my charts up. Sorry, guys. Thank you, Goose. All right. Anyway, looking at the chart, it is breaking out of this base, and therefore I'm not exactly thrilled about the short on it. They had 12.7 million cash at the end of March. They burned about 3 million a month for the last Q, but they were slightly cash flow positive for all of 2017. So take that with a grain of salt. They do have $143 million in convertible senior notes that are due next year. And something that's kind of a strange thing, just a side note, is that even though they just secured a $25 million credit facility, which they immediately drew down 15 million of, they also did just register a shelf. So it's hard to say whether or not they would actually use the shelf. It may be something that's planned out just for later. It's always good to have a shelf in the back pocket, so when they do actually need cash, they can use it. But this is a pharma company that has revenues, which oftentimes they don't, especially at these price levels. You see $3-4 pharma companies, usually they have zero in revenues. But we do see the levels, guys. We kind of just slammed right up into the 200-day, as well as that resistance level around, what is that, let's just call it 420. But we do have a gap to fill right at that psych level 5. If we get to 5, I will start looking for a possible fade. But if it wants to just hold these levels, like let's say we get over this 420 level and it starts acting really strong and showing a nice base, there may actually be a long in it, because oftentimes these gaps fill. And if you're going to fade it from 5, there's always a good chance that it's going to set up proper for a good push into that 5, and you might as well be a part of the push as well. The next thing, guys, I'm looking at is IFON, IFON, not to be confused with the Apple gadget. Now, it's already given back quite a bit of the move. It slammed right up into the psych level 5 and all the way back down to 4. So not sure this is going to have enough meat on the bone, but we will cover it real quickly. The OS is 3.3 million shares. The float should be just shy of 3 million. They just recently did a merger with a reverse split, so it was actually kind of confusing trying to look up their share structure, but I think I got it nailed down. They had 5.3 million in cash at the end of March. They raised another 3 million from the offering they did earlier this month. They burned just shy of $650,000 a month in the last Q, but over the last fiscal year, they only burned about $200,000 a month. Something that's funny to note is that they had Class B promissory notes. They were due March 12, 2018, and that was upon the closing of that recent merger. They are now delinquent on those. And I mean, it's not a big deal. It was only for $200,000. They very well may have used the last raise that they just did to help pay that down, but they do have over $10 million in notes payable, as well as a negative net working capital. So, and this is a typical turd chart, guys. So this is the Ricky tip, but as of right now, there's no interest on my side just because there's no meat on the bone. So if it does extend, 5 would be the first level since that was the pre-market highs as well as the psych level. But I would much prefer if this thing got some stupid legs today and decided to head up to 7 right around that 200 day. Maybe even somehow gets over there. I think there's just a lot. If you guys look at the yearly chart, you can see there's just been a lot of sideways action right around there. And I'm willing to bet that 7 level would be pretty much a killer for it. Next thing I'm looking at, whoops, sorry, there we go, is TLRD. And so I wish that their numbers were worse than they were. It was an earnings play. They didn't miss on earnings. They just kind of missed on the comparables. And I mean, if it had been worse numbers, I'd feel a lot more confident in talking about this. But from a technical perspective, I do like it. We had highs. We had a push down in the 50-day, which held beautifully. And then people probably got long thinking, that held. We're going back to highs. It made a push up, but what did we get? We got a lower high and right into another round number 35. Now with this earnings out, we have completely lost the 50-day and we have completely lost that 30 level. So what I'm looking for is the fact that now we have a lower high and lower lows on the daily chart. I'm looking at pushes back into 30, 31.50 to show some signs of resistance and look to fade it. But if we get back over the 50-day and it wants to close the gap, I probably would lose interest in it. And that's mostly based off the fact that their numbers weren't as bad as I would have liked to see them in order to want to really heavily fade this. And one last quick thing, I didn't have this put in the tweet or anything, but I just wanted to talk about EMPH because yesterday we talked about it, and all it did yesterday, the whole day, was this sideways coil action, which just got tighter and tighter and tighter. And today you see that it's getting back. It picked a direction. So if we break pre-market highs from yesterday, and we're also taking out that 52-week high, watch EMPH. It could be a good long, guys. That's it for me. Going to throw it back to Goose. I know he's got a few good ones, and we're going to get the day cracking.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Great job as always. I just want to follow up on something on TLGT as well. I think Ricky's spot on with all his fundamental stuff, and I just want to talk to you. I've been really watching it like a hawk. And TLGT, in my opinion, from a technical basis also, is I think you got to let some room. I think it's going to be one of those that maybe some rooms pick it up early in the morning. I'm going to be personally looking for about a 4.25 to 450 range at the open if it happens. And I'm going to start a little bit earlier than that 5 number. I have a feeling this is going to stuff. It's been real heavy all morning. They've been putting out these FDA approvals. I think they've done a few of them so far for 2018. Of these little announcements, and just based on the daily, I think it's going to be heavier than we anticipate. So I might start a little early on this. Just want to give you a little different perspective, just because of how heavy I've seen it on any of the pushes pre-market. But just keep in mind that $4 level. I just want to bring that up for you. When it clears this, $4 area, that's when it would maybe do that pushback and pre-market highs. So I'm not going to be. I don't want to miss this trade because I do think it's going to be one of my top fades today. But like Ricky says, you always want to wait for those backside moves and things like that. And you also want to understand the fundamentals. So sorry to jump on that as well, Ricky, but I just want to give you a little bit more to that because I really, really like this potential trade today for us. So
all good, buddy. All good.
Thank you very much. So just a couple quick ones, and I have one other one that's a little bit more complex. Is I want to jump on this HRB H&R block. One of the things that I'm looking at on this is the daily, and if you pull it back, you'll see this 2350 to 24 area. I really, really like this area for a long. I'm not looking for it, to push all the way back from where it came from, but I can see it pushing back up on the 200-day. And the reason I'm looking at it today is because this name doesn't have a history of like big, giant $2, $3 moves. It had its huge moves. So I'm hoping today, based on the technicals and the 52-week lows and all that, that maybe today is the day that we do get that $1 or $1.50 move out of this name. So I want to be on this today. I think we have very, very defined risk, reward on this, as far as entries, whether we use the prior close or whatever, whatever it wants to give us after the open. But HRB is going to be on my list today. It's also a nice swing idea, I think. So HRB is one. I want to talk to you about CRON real quick. I actually have a position already in CRON. I had talked to the room about it yesterday. And what I was talking about with CRON is this, is I want you guys to look at the, how it came off the 50 and the 20-day last couple of days. I was watching this. I longed it at, I think, my average 690 and 704 in one book. So I have it in a couple different books. And, what I'm looking at on this is there was buyers around yesterday. Now, I love the daily and how the chart's setting up on this. But, there was guys just soaking it up when it went down to 690, when it moved up and they stepped up to 695.7. He just sat there at 7, soaked up everything. There were some big offers at 703, 705 that just kept getting soaked up. And I have a feeling that this is set up to go to a nice little push, $8. So I want to make sure I swung some so I don't miss that move. And I think we have very defined risk based off those 50, 20 days and all that. So I really, really like this CRON setup. Have a look at it. I think the daily looks great. I am swinging it already. But also I'm going to look for an intraday trade on this thing using that 7 or 690 area as a guide and see how it wants to open. Maybe it comes down and then does a red to green move. But I do want to be part of this move and a push up to 8 or better. Lastly, I want to touch on Etsy. So Etsy's a little bit of a tricky one. Let me fix this fib here as I'm talking to you. So I think there's 2 trades set up on Etsy. One of them is I'm looking for a push initially right out of the box. Potentially, shove up to like that 40 to 42 area. That'd be an area that I like to look to fade it. I think this name, it's had $6 moves in it and stuff like that on this big gap down here. But I think it's getting towards that top part of that move. So I think it's going to give a couple bucks back if it does get that shove into that 40 to 42 area. So I'm going to look for a backside move. Keep in mind the range. It's got big range today. It's going to have, a lot of volume right at the open, I think. But I definitely would love to join a short. Just make sure you guys are protecting yourself and giving yourself room that if it, like I talked yesterday a little bit in the room, or that it's okay to be, red for a second on this. You're not going to always pick the exact top on these things, but just have a plan, stick to your plan. And if it wants to go, make sure you could always revisit the trade. So don't get stuck on just getting squeezed up and riding a short from 41 to 45 saying, it should come back. That's too much. It's never too much, guys. We saw it happen PVTL and other names. I mean, they just keep going and they stay strong. So my thought is a imbalance at the open, buying imbalance, have it push up 40 to 42, put on a short, fade it back for a few dollars. The other side is on the fib is what I was looking at is this 35.50 to 36 area. As if it wants to pull back, you could see pre-market how it got bought up in here, and then the volume kind of kicked in. If it wants to do a little imbalance at the open down to that 36 or 35.5 area, I'll be all over a long on this. So I think there's a couple really, really, really good trades on this thing setting up that I'm not going to miss. I'll be on voice at the open to talk you guys through what I'm looking at, and looking forward to a great day ahead. So stay safe today, guys. Make sure you have a plan. Remember, guys, you could always take a trade and revisit it if it's not working for you. Don't just ride these losses up and down. And let's have a good day today, guys. So that being said, back to you, Ricky.
Thanks a lot, Goose. I really like how that 50% retrace is right there at the, the 5-minute 20, and also that little consolidation area. And I also love that daily chart on CRON. So, guys, make sure you have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you don't have a trade, go out there, stay safe, protect your capital. But as always, make sure you crush it. Peace.